Welcome to a brand new episode of Law and Batting Order. I'm your host, Tony Iliakostas. Here are some quick hits from the past 2 weeks. The Los Angeles Lakers family has lost one of its own. This week, Lakers owner Jerry Buss passed away at the age of 80. Dr. Buss bought the Lakers in 1979 and instantly brought success to the franchise. With the acquisition of players such as James Worthy, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, Kobe Bryant, and Shaquille O'Neal, among other successful players, Dr. Buss brought Showtime to the Lakers. As the owner of the Lakers, Dr. Buss's franchise won the NBA Finals 10 times. Dr. Buss brought energy to the Lakers, and to see him go is certainly painful. Our hearts and prayers here in Law and Batting Order go out to the Buss family. Spring training has kicked off, and we have taken the first glimpse of how teams are preparing for the upcoming season. One of the big headlines this spring training is regarding Derek Jeter's return to the baseball diamond. If you recall, during last year's playoffs, Jeter suffered a massive ankle injury that required surgery and sidelined him for the remainder of the ALCS against the Tigers. Jeter has been slowly performing exercises that can ensure his return to the field come opening day. Meanwhile, over at the Blue Jays camp, fans are ecstatic to see a very dynamic team this season. With the addition of Josh Johnson, Jose Reyes, and Ari Dickey, the Blue Jays have instantly become a favorite to win the AL East and perhaps reach the World Series. The Jays are at least hoping for now that they can contend in the AL East and return to the playoffs for the first time since 1993. If you're a Chicago Blackhawks fan, you must be happy with the work that your team has been putting in game after game after game. The Chicago Blackhawks currently have a stat line of 14-0-3. You heard it right, folks. Despite having a short NHL season, the Blackhawks have not lost a single game in regulation this year. The Blackhawks surpassed the record for the longest win streak with at least 1 point that belonged to the 2006-2007 Anaheim Ducks. Does this record mean that the Blackhawks are well on their way to the Stanley Cup? Who knows? Much more hockey has to be played, but it certainly looks promising. Today's Order in the Court will be discussing the recent murder charges that have been pressed against the double amputee Olympian Oscar Pistorius. Pistorius coined the term Blade Runner for swiftly running the track field with his two prosthetic blade-shaped legs. He made Olympic history when he competed in the 2012 Summer Olympics in London in the 4x400 meter relay race. While he didn't escape with a medal, he instantly became a fan favorite. Fast forward to Valentine's Day 2013, when news breaks that Pistorius was arrested after he was accused of murdering his model girlfriend, Riva Steenkamp. At the time of the arrest, Pistorius claimed an intruder defense, saying that he thought his girlfriend was a robber who broke into his home. However, South African police didn't buy his story. In fact, they found a 9mm handgun and a bloodied and mangled cricket bat, all used to allegedly kill Steenkamp. There is also speculation that Pistorius has a history of domestic violence. Nevertheless, Pistorius was charged with premeditated murder and was released on bail on Friday after a series of bail hearings heard immediately after his arrest. Pistorius is free on approximately $110,000 bail. The grand question and the issue that will be discussed in today's episode is the following. Is Oscar Pistorius guilty of premeditated murder, and if so, under what circumstances? Let's take a look at South Africa's law on premeditated murder. Admittedly, I have zero access to South Africa's law, but I reached out to a South African law professor who was kind enough to break down the law on premeditated murder in South Africa. South African criminal law is born out of South African common law, which is Roman Dutch law as influenced by English law and indigenous law. While South Africa has a constitution and has statutes, they also abide by the common law, and in this case, murder is a common law crime and is defined as the unlawful and intentional causing of the death of another human being. In South Africa, there are no degrees of murder, such as first-degree murder, second-degree murder, or manslaughter, like we see here in the United States. Instead, South African law applies a mens rea reading of the word intentional. There are three forms of intent according to South African law: dolus directus, dolus indirectus, and dolus eventualis. Dolus directus, or direct intention, is present when the accused's aim and objective is to bring about the unlawful consequence or death, even if the chance of death is small. Dolus indirectus, or indirect intention, involves a desire to perform an unlawful consequence against party A, when doing so may cause the death of party B. Finally, dolus eventualis, or legal intention, involves the accused foreseeing the possibility of death and proceeds regardless of the consequences. Tying this into premeditated murder, murder falls under the category of direct intention. So how does this all relate to Oscar Pistorius? It's plain and simple. What level of intent applies here? The driving factor here will be likely determinative on whether or not Pistorius' intruder defense will stand. Pistorius made a convincing argument to the court at the bail hearings about his intruder defense. However, will the court buy it at the actual trial? Pistorius will have to show that he indeed believed an intruder was at his home and as a matter of defending his property, he attacked the robber. While this argument could stand, the problem is that Pistorius is the only live witness to make that claim. No one else was in Pistorius' home to further support Pistorius' intruder defense. Thus, it seems more likely that Pistorius is guilty of murder. That is, he knowingly and willingly foresaw the possibility of Steenkamp's death and proceeded regardless of the consequences. Remember that Pistorius is charged with premeditated murder, which means that the prosecution must argue that Pistorius' intent was direct. The prosecution must show that by using the 9mm pistol and the cricket bat to attack Steenkamp, Pistorius knew it could kill his girlfriend. Also, the smoking gun in this whole case will be Pistorius' history of domestic violence. If the prosecution can gather enough evidence to show that Pistorius' history of domestic violence against Steenkamp was a motivating factor that led to Steenkamp's murder, that could be just enough to lock Pistorius in jail for life as per South African law. And this is how South Africa's law on murder applies in the Oscar Pistorius case. That's the show. Leave all your comments down below and be sure to visit Law and Batting Order at lawandbattingorder.com as well as on Facebook and Twitter. Take care, guys.